So it is true that you say it's the UFO melds science and religion, right? And it's not going away. Okay. Well, this is what I saw before I wrote American Cosmic, and I said, this is a new form of religion.
Yeah.
It's not just a religion, because we do have UFO religions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But this is a new form of religion. And this is going to happen. And I kind of tried to stay with that thesis, you know, this is how it's going to happen. And I talked about how media is going to it's the infrastructure that's going to, this is going to disseminate through all kinds of different screens, right? And we're just going to be converted through these screens. But I didn't figure that I would have experiences myself going through the study of it, and that I would then think, okay, something is happening here. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, that's, and now I'm just going to be open about it, because it feels like the cat's out of the bag with all this stuff. I used to try to maintain sort of impartiality.
Yeah.
And then, the book I would always give people when they were skeptical is a book called UFOs and Nukes by a guy named Robert Hastings.
Yeah, great book.
Amazing book. And it's super dry and hard-headed. And that's why I would give it to people. And I recently connected with him 2 weeks ago. And he was like, I've had a lot of anomalous experiences since I've started studying the phenomena. I've had a lot of weird experiences since I've gotten into this. And I've never said this before publicly, but my dad's godfather is a guy named Rod Serling, who created the Twilight Zone and made the most famous UFO documentary in I think it was the 50s or 60s. And then I made this thing with Grush or whatever, you know, like a couple months ago. And it's just this weird thing where you start to feel even more connected to it in a completely the goal of science is to stay impartial. But it's sort of impossible with this. And everybody I know who's at the forefront of disclosure, whether it's you or Gary Nolan or any of the people, they admit that they've had sort of anomalous experiences themselves. And so have you had, you don't have to talk about it if you don't feel comfortable, but have you had any experiences like that?
Well, I think that being alive is an anomalous experience.
It is, yeah.
And that we just have defense mechanisms to keep us from recognizing it.
Yes.
And I think what happens is that the UFO comes along and busts your defense mechanisms.
Yes.
So you saw my defense mechanism bust in American Cosmic.
Yes.
And a lot of people did.
Yes.
And then it went out and busted theirs too.
Yes.
Because I was so honest about it. I was like, this is going to happen. It's a new religiosity. Let's do this academically. And then boom. Whoa, what? This is for real? It is for real. And then, okay, if it's for real, what does it mean? And that's my follow-up was like, my follow-up was like, if it's for real, then what it means is that we better take life pretty darn seriously.
Yes.
Okay, so if it doesn't cause you to go off the deep end, I think what it does is it causes you to, I hate to say this word, or this term, but go on the straight and narrow.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you don't...
I basically don't drink anymore. I have very little caffeine. I never have caffeine,
wow,
basically. And you feel more sensitive to reality in a way. And then you end up having to go on the straight and narrow.
You have to.
It sort of
There's
forces
no
you.
choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a forcing function.
That's what, oh, very good.
It is.
Jesse, it's a forcing function.
Yes.
I'm going to now use that term. I tried to understand what it was when I told people that these people aren't holy.
Yes.
But they are doing this, and they're doing this because they have to do it. And that's not a choice.
These visitations, in a way, are kind of like a modern mystery event. People don't just walk away traumatized. In some cases they do. But in other cases, transformed for the better.
Well, it's almost like as you study this, you become, and this is not scientific terminology, but like a higher frequency but non-specific amplifier or receptor. And so as you get deeper into it, you pick up more, you become much more sensitive, and bad stuff can glom onto you more easily. And so it's almost like C.S. Lewis, the Screw Tape Letters, where you have to be hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
But you also are tapped into really good stuff too.
Yes.
And it's like an amplification or intensification of what somebody who isn't on the path yet might experience. Let's talk about a specific example. The one I love is St. Francis of Assisi, where the UFO experience becomes a forcing function to become a better person. but also that involves a lot of hardship for him. He starts out this sort of popular, life of the party guy, and then he has his UFO experience and basically dies from it. Oh, do you want to tell the full account?
Yeah. Okay. So what happens is that Francis is praying, and something comes out of the sky, and the way that it's described is that there's a lot of sparks, and it seems kind of spinning, and there's an eye, right, that comes down, and there's different versions of it too. So that's what people need to know, is that there's the artistic version of it and the dogmatic version of it. So the information I was able to get was that the angel was harsh with him. Okay. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means, but that's how it gets translated. So it deals harshly with him, and he receives burns maybe. So this is then interpreted as being the stigmata, and it's interpreted as the angel, like Jesus talking to him, had this messenger coming down and talking to him. Now, this isn't unlike things that you see today, like in contemporary, UFO. That's the thing that I was trying to point out, was that this looks very similar to things that people talk about today.
Radiation damage and all the stuff Kit Green and
Gary Nolan's work. I mean, that's when it really hit me. Was I was actually at the New Mexico site, and we hadn't gone there yet. It was the night before, and we were all just hanging out, having a beer. And Gary decided he was going to share his research with us, and photos and everything. And it took 2 hours to go through a lot of this stuff. And I was horrified at, because and in fact, part of his motivation was to try to stop this from happening, right, to people.
Do you think that, my mind went for whatever reason when you were talking about the story of St. Francis of Assisi to the Ark of the Covenant and the holiest of holies, and you have to be a certain level of purity to make contact, and if you don't, then somehow it does violence to you or something.
So so this question of your purity or else, so in a lot of traditions that have these, that discuss this contact with non-human intelligences, whether we interpret them as deities or, UFOs or whatnot. A lot of them do have this idea, similar idea, as in the Merkaba tradition, right? Yeah. You do have to be, and by the way, you also see this in the Socratic tradition, but strangely, it's with philosophy. Mm-hmm. So you have to be a certain age, and you have to have done so much math and purified yourself in order to understand philosophy, like truth and things like that. So you see this. So now, I don't know if that's true or not, but this is the historical fact that people believe this, and people have prepared themselves to do this. Now, listen, when people ask me, because a lot of people do, I have people say I go talk to a class or, do some podcast, and I'll have somebody ask me, how can I make contact, right? And I don't recommend that at all.
Yeah, right. Right, especially not in some sort of recreational, it's fun or whatever, good luck.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
No, it's dangerous. I think if it happens, it'll happen when you least expect it. And you should reality is set up the way it is for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
And you can just move through your own life and contemplate virtue and get where you need to go through that. And then I do think, it's like staring at the sun for too long when you kind of study this stuff or whatever.
It's the heroic dose.
Yeah, totally.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. Or 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and but really, don't always go looking for it.